First contact goes hilariously wrong. Captain Sarah Chen was reviewing weekly reports when every alarm on research station Aurora began screaming at once. Her coffee mug jumped across her desk as the station's artificial gravity fluctuated. Red warning lights bathed her office in an urgent glow, and the computer's voice kept repeating the same message over and over. Unknown vessels detected. Unknown vessels detected. All personnel report to battle stations. Sarah rushed to the command center, her boots echoing through the corridors. The Aurora was humanity's most advanced deep space research facility, floating in the outer rim of the solar system. It was designed to study distant galaxies and search for signs of intelligent life. Today, it seemed like intelligent life had found them first. The command center was chaos. Officers ran between control stations while screens displayed readings that made no sense. Dr. Marcus Webb, the station's chief scientist, stood frozen in front of the main display. His usually calm face was pale with shock. "Sarah, you need to see this," Marcus said without turning round. His voice was barely above a whisper. Long-range sensors picked up something approaching from the Andromeda sector. At first, we thought it was an asteroid field. Lieutenant Rosa Martinez, the communications officer, looked up from her station with wide eyes. "Captain, it's not asteroids. The computer count shows 250 individual objects. They're artificial. They're ships, ma'am, really. Big ships." Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. In all of human history, they had never encountered alien life. Sure, scientists had theorized about it for centuries, but actually meeting another species was something that only existed in movies and books. She walked to the main viewing screen and activated the long-range cameras. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. Approaching their position was the largest fleet of spacecraft anyone had ever imagined. The ships were enormous, each one easily 10 times bigger than Aurora Station. They looked like floating cities made of dark metal and glowing crystals. Strange energy patterns danced across their surfaces, and massive weapons could be seen mounted on every side. The lead ship was the most impressive of all. It was shaped like a giant pyramid turned upside down, with lightning crackling between. Massive towers on its surface. Smaller ships surrounded it like a protective swarm. The entire fleet moved in perfect formation, creating patterns in space that were both beautiful and terrifying. "Distance to the fleet?" Sarah asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Approximately 1 million kilometers and closing," reported Ensign Tommy Liu from the sensor station. "Captain, they're slowing down. I think they want to stop near our position." Dr. Webb finally turned away from the display. "Sarah, this changes everything. This is first contact with an alien civilization. We need to follow protocols and notify Earth immediately." "Already done," Rosa said from her communication station. "I sent an emergency transmission to Earth Command, but it will take hours for them to respond at this distance." The massive alien fleet came to a stop exactly 100,000 kilometers from Aurora Station. The ships arranged themselves in a perfect battle formation, with the pyramid-shaped command vessel at the center. For several minutes, nothing happened. The aliens and humans simply observed each other across the vast emptiness of space. Then, the communications equipment started beeping. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," Rosa announced. "It's on multiple frequencies, and it's being translated automatically by our computers. The signal is incredibly strong." "Put it on the main screen," Sarah ordered. The viewing screen flickered and changed to show the interior of the alien command ship. What they saw was unlike anything in human imagination. The alien bridge looked like something from a nightmare. Dark metal walls were covered in sharp spikes and glowing red symbols. Strange mist flowed across the floor, and lightning danced between massive pillars. In the center of this frightening scene sat the alien commander. He was enormous, at least 12 feet tall, with dark blue skin and 4 glowing yellow eyes. His body was covered in elaborate armor that seemed to be made from black crystal and flowing metal. Behind him stood rows of smaller aliens, all wearing similar armor and carrying weapons that hummed with dangerous energy. The alien commander spoke, and his voice was translated into perfect English by their computers. The voice was deep and thunderous, designed to strike fear into anyone who heard it. "Attention, primitive inhabitants of the third planet," the commander began. Thunder effects echoed in the background, and dramatic music began playing. "I am Supreme Commander Krelks, of the mighty Zorthian Dominion. We have traveled across the galaxy to deliver an important message to your pathetic species." Lightning flashed dramatically across the alien ship's bridge. The smaller aliens began chanting something in their own language while raising their weapons toward the ceiling. More thunder rumbled through the communication channel. "For 10,000 years, the Zorthian Dominion has conquered every world we have encountered. Our war fleets have destroyed entire civilizations. Our weapons have shattered moons. Our armies have brought fear to every corner of the galaxy." Sarah looked around at her crew. Everyone was staring at the screen with fascination rather than fear. Dr. Webb was actually taking notes on his tablet, probably documenting humanity's first contact with an alien species. Commander Krelks continued his speech, and the dramatic effects intensified. "We are the masters of space and time. We are the bringers of destruction. We are the shadow that falls upon all worlds. Your primitive planet now belongs to the Zorthian Dominion." The thunder effects reached a crescendo, and the lightning show became so intense that it was hard to see the alien commander through all the flashing lights. The dramatic music swelled to movie soundtrack levels. "You will surrender your world to us immediately, or face the consequences of our terrible wrath. Tremble before the might of the Zorthian Dominion. Despair at the futility of resistance. Your doom is at hand." The transmission ended with one final crash of thunder, and the screen went dark. For a moment, the Aurora Command Center was completely silent. Then Dr. Webb cleared his throat. "That was quite a show," he said thoughtfully. "The production values alone must have taken years to perfect." Lieutenant Martinez started giggling. Did anyone else notice the dramatic music? It sounded like something from a space opera movie. Ensign Liu was studying his sensor readings. "Captain, I'm analyzing their ship designs. The lightning effects appear to be completely artificial. They're using some kind of electromagnetic field generators just to create a light show." Sarah found herself fighting back a smile. After the initial shock of seeing the alien fleet, she was beginning to realize that their terrifying presentation was actually quite theatrical. It reminded her of a stage performance more than a military threat. "Rosa, open a communication." "Channel," she ordered. "Channel open, Captain." Sarah stepped forward and spoke clearly into the microphone. "Supreme Commander Krelks, this is Captain Sarah Chen of Human Research Station Aurora. We received your message. Welcome to our solar system." The alien commander appeared on screen again, but this time without all the dramatic effects. He looked confused and slightly annoyed. Asterisk. "Did you not understand our declaration?" he asked. "We have just announced the conquest of your world. You are supposed to surrender immediately." "Oh," We understood perfectly, Sarah replied cheerfully. It's just that we have a few questions. About your fleet. Our scientists are quite interested in your technology. Dr. Webb stepped up next to Sarah. Commander Krelks, I'm Dr. Marcus Webb, Chief Scientist of this station. Your ships appear to use some form of exotic matter propulsion system. Could you tell us more about the physics involved? Commander Krelks stared at them through the screen. His 4 yellow eyes blinked slowly, and he turned to speak with one of his subordinates in their alien language. After a moment, he faced the humans again. You are asking about our technology. Are you not afraid of our mighty war fleet? Afraid? Sarah asked genuinely. Should we be? Your ships are certainly impressive, but you seem like reasonable people. A bit dramatic, perhaps, but reasonable. We are not reasonable, Commander Krelks protested. We are terrifying conquerors. We have destroyed countless worlds. Lieutenant Martinez leaned toward the microphone. Commander, may I ask about the lightning effects on your ships? Our readings suggest it's artificial. Is it for intimidation purposes, or does it serve a practical function? The alien commander looked even more confused. Behind him, other aliens were whispering to each other and pointing at their own control screens. Sarah could see them consulting what looked like instruction manuals. The lightning is part of our standard intimidation protocol, Commander Krelks admitted reluctantly. All species are supposed to surrender when they see our arrival. Display. Dr. Webb nodded thoughtfully. I see. It's quite effective as theater. The timing with the thunder sounds was particularly well coordinated. Did you compose the background music yourselves? For the first time since the transmission began, Commander Krelks was speechless. He turned to confer with his officers again, and their conversation became more animated. Sarah could see they were having some kind of heated discussion. Captain Chen, Commander Krelks said finally, your species is responding incorrectly to our conquest procedures. Perhaps you did not understand. We are here to take control of your planet. Yes, we got that part, Sarah replied patiently. But, before we discuss any major policy changes, would you like to come aboard our station? We could talk more comfortably, and our chef makes excellent coffee. The alien commander's 4 eyes widened in shock. You are inviting us aboard your vessel? Of course, Sarah said with a warm smile. It's the polite thing to do when meeting new neighbors. Besides, our xenobiology team is dying to meet you. They've been studying the possibility of alien life. For decades, Commander Krelks looked around his bridge at his confused officers. None of them seemed to know what to do next. Their invasion manual apparently didn't have a chapter on what to do when the enemy invited them over for coffee. This is highly irregular, he muttered. No species has ever invited us for refreshments during a conquest. Well, there's a first. Time for everything, Sarah said cheerfully. We'll prepare a conference room and have our diplomatic team standing by. How many of your people would like to visit? The alien commander stared at her for a long moment. Then he made a gesture to one of his subordinates, who began frantically consulting what appeared to be a very thick manual. We will consider your invitation, Commander Krelks said uncertainly. But do not mistake our courtesy for weakness. We are still a mighty conquering force. Of course you are, Sarah agreed pleasantly. We look forward to meeting you in person, Commander. As the communication channel closed, Dr. Webb turned to Sarah with a grin. I think we just invited an alien invasion fleet over for coffee. Best first contact ever, Lieutenant Martinez added with a laugh. Sarah looked back at the main screen. showing the massive alien fleet floating peacefully in space. Their dramatic light shows had stopped, and the ships seemed almost ordinary now. She had a feeling this was going to be a very interesting day. The unexpected turn 2 hours later. The main docking bay of Aurora Station was transformed into humanity's first diplomatic meeting room. Sarah had ordered the maintenance crew to clear out all the equipment and set up tables and chairs. Dr. Webb's team had prepared translation devices, recording equipment, and several pots of fresh coffee. The entire crew was buzzing with excitement. "Captain, the alien shuttle is approaching," announced Lieutenant Martinez from the communications station. "It's about the size of one of our cargo ships, but the design is incredible. The hull appears to be made from some kind of living metal." Sarah watched through the observation windows as the alien craft docked with their station. It moved with an organic fluidity that human ships couldn't match. When the docking clamps engaged, she could see strange patterns of light flowing across the shuttle's surface like glowing veins. The airlock cycled through its sequence, and Sarah felt her heart racing. She was about to become the first human being to meet an alien face to face. The moment that would change history forever was just seconds away. The airlock door opened with a soft hiss, and Commander Krelks stepped through. Up close, he was even more impressive than he had appeared on the communication screen. His 12-foot frame barely fit through the doorway, and his elaborate armor clicked and hummed with internal mechanisms. Behind him came 4 other aliens, each one unique in appearance but all wearing similar ceremonial armor. What surprised Sarah most was how carefully they moved. Despite their intimidating appearance, the aliens seemed nervous and uncertain. Commander Krelks kept looking around as if he expected humans to start screaming and running away. "Welcome aboard Aurora Station, Commander," Sarah said, stepping forward with her hand extended in greeting. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen." Commander Krelks stared at her outstretched hand for a moment, then looked back at his companions. One of them, a slightly smaller alien with green skin and 3 eyes, whispered something in their language. Krelks nodded and carefully extended his own hand, which was twice the size of Sarah's and covered in what looked like living armor. "I am Supreme Commander Krelks of the Zorthian Dominion," he said formally. "This is General Throck, my military advisor. These are commanders, Zexvorth and Quillock." Sarah shook hands with each alien, noting that their skin felt warm and slightly metallic. They seemed fascinated by the simple human gesture of handshaking, examining their own hands afterward as if something profound had just happened. "Please, follow me to our conference room," Sarah said. "Dr. Webb has prepared refreshments, and we're eager to learn more about your civilization." As they walked through the station's corridors, the aliens looked around with obvious curiosity. They stopped frequently to examine human technology, pointing at things like light fixtures and computer terminals while speaking in their own language. "Commander Krelks," Dr. Webb said as they entered the conference room, "we've prepared several beverages for you to try. We weren't sure what your species might enjoy, so we have coffee, tea, fruit juice, and water." The aliens stared at the refreshment table, as if it was some kind of alien artifact. Commander Krelks approached one of the coffee cups cautiously and sniffed it. "This is food," he asked. "Beverages," Sarah explained. "Drinks, we consume them for pleasure and to stay hydrated." General Throck picked up a cup of coffee and examined it from every angle. "On most worlds we conquer, the inhabitants offer us their most valuable treasures in hopes of mercy. You are offering us flavored water. Well, when you put it that way, It doesn't sound very impressive, Lieutenant Martinez laughed. But trust me, that coffee is some of the best in the galaxy. Our chef imported the beans from Earth's finest plantations. Commander Krelks took a tentative sip of the coffee. His 4 eyes widened, and he made a sound that might have been surprise or pleasure. He immediately took another, larger sip. "This is remarkably pleasant," he said. "The flavor is complex and stimulating. Is this a typical human refreshment?" "One of our favorites," Dr. Webb confirmed. "Coffee contains caffeine, which helps keep us alert. We consume billions of cups of it every day across human space." The other aliens began trying different drinks, and their reactions were entertaining to watch. General Throck seemed to prefer the fruit juice, while Commander Zex was fascinated by tea. Within minutes, the supposedly terrifying alien invasion force was sitting around a conference table, sipping beverages and making appreciative comments. "Commander Krelks," Sarah began, "we're curious about your Zorthian dominion. How many worlds do you control?" "We have brought order to over 3,000 star systems," Krelks replied proudly. "Each world has surrendered to our superior might and technology." Dr. Webb leaned forward with interest. "That's an impressive civilization. How do you manage the logistics of governing so many different worlds? The communication delays alone must be enormous." Commander Krelks paused with his coffee cup halfway to his mouth. "Logistics? Yes, the practical aspects of running an interstellar empire. Supply chains, resource allocation, population management. How do you coordinate economic activity across thousands of light years?" The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. General Throck whispered something to Krelks in their native language. Sarah noticed that their confident demeanor was beginning to crack. "We have ... standard protocols," Krelks said slowly. "Each world provides tribute to the Dominion. Our fleets ensure compliance. But what about trade?" Lieutenant Martinez asked. "Do your worlds specialize in different industries? How do you handle currency exchange rates between different species?" "Currency exchange?" Commander Zex asked blankly. Dr. Webb pulled out his tablet and began showing them charts and graphs. "Here's how human colonies coordinate their economies. We have 17 different trade networks covering over 200 worlds. Each world contributes what it produces best and receives what it needs from others." The aliens studied the charts with growing confusion. Sarah realized that despite their impressive military technology, the Zorthian Dominion might not be as sophisticated as they claimed. "Commander Krelks," she said gently, "when you conquer a world, what happens to the local population?" "They surrender and acknowledge our dominance," Krelks replied. "Then we move on to the next conquest. But who governs them afterward? Who makes sure they have food and medicine and functioning infrastructure?" Another long pause. The aliens were clearly struggling with these questions. The conquered species managed their own affairs. General Throck said finally, "We only require that they not interfere with Dominion activities." Sarah exchanged glances with Dr. Webb. It was becoming clear that the Zorthian Dominion wasn't really an empire at all. They were more like a military force that traveled around intimidating other species. But they didn't actually know how to govern anything. "How interesting," Dr. Webb said diplomatically. "Your approach is quite different from human colonial administration. We've found that active economic integration tends to produce better long-term stability." "Economic integration?" Krelks asked. For the next hour, the humans found themselves explaining basic concepts of governance, economics, and diplomacy to the supposedly advanced alien conquerors. The aliens listened with growing fascination as Sarah described human trade networks. Dr. Webb explained scientific cooperation between worlds, and Lieutenant Martinez talked about cultural exchange programs. You mean your worlds voluntarily share resources with each other? Commander Quillock asked in amazement. Of course, Sarah replied. It's more efficient than trying to force cooperation. When worlds benefit from trade relationships, they work harder to maintain them, and your scientists share research data freely. General Throck asked Dr. Webb. Most of it, yes. Scientific progress accelerates when everyone can build on everyone else's discoveries. We've solved problems in years. That might have taken decades if each world worked in isolation. The aliens were taking notes now, asking detailed questions about human society and technology. Sarah began to suspect that the Zorthian Dominion had never encountered a civilization quite like humanity before. Commander Craux, she said during a lull in the conversation, may I ask you something personal? Why do you conquer other worlds? Craux looked surprised by the question. Because that is what we do. The Zorthian Dominion has always been a conquering force. It is our way. But what's the goal? What do you hope to achieve? The goal, Craux repeated slowly. We seek to expand our influence across the galaxy. To what end? Dr. Webb asked. Are you looking for resources? Territory? Knowledge? The alien commander stared at them for a long moment. No one has ever asked us that question before. General Throck spoke up quietly. Most species surrender so quickly that there is no opportunity for extended conversation. We deliver our demands, they comply, and we move on. That must be lonely, Lieutenant Martinez observed. Don't you ever want to actually talk to the people you meet? The aliens looked at each other with what Sarah interpreted as surprise and maybe longing. She was beginning to understand something important about the Zorthian Dominion. How long has it been since you had a conversation like this? She asked gently. Never, Commander Craux admitted. In all my years of military service, no species has ever invited us to sit and share refreshments and ideas. They either attack us immediately or surrender without discussion. That sounds exhausting, Dr. Webb said. Always having to be the intimidating conqueror, never getting to just be yourself. Ourselves, Commander Zex asked. What do you mean? Sarah gestured around the conference room. Look at you now. You're sitting here drinking coffee, asking questions, sharing ideas. You seem much more relaxed than when you first arrived, with all the lightning effects and dramatic speeches. The aliens looked around at each other, and Sarah could see recognition dawning in their expressions. Without their armor and weapons and theatrical displays, they seemed like curious, intelligent beings who genuinely enjoyed learning new things. The intimidation protocols are required by Dominion military regulations, General Throck said quietly. But I confess, this conversation has been far more interesting than our usual conquests. What if you didn't have to conquer anyone? Sarah asked. What if you could just visit worlds, meet new species, share knowledge, and make friends? Commander Craux set down his coffee cup and stared at her. Friends. Yes, friends, allies, partners, people you enjoy spending time with. The Dominion has never had friends, Craux said slowly. Only subjects and enemies. Dr. Webb leaned forward. What if that could change? What if instead of conquering Earth, you became our first alien allies? The aliens sat in stunned silence. Sarah could practically see the gears turning in their minds as they considered possibilities they had never imagined before. Our superiors would never approve such a radical departure from established protocols, General Throck said finally. Then maybe it's time to question those protocols, Sarah suggested. You've been traveling the galaxy for thousands of years, but have you been enjoying it? Have you been learning and growing and becoming better than you were before, Commander? Krelks looked around the conference room, taking in the sight of his officers relaxing and enjoying themselves for perhaps the first time in their military careers. Captain Chen, he said slowly, what exactly are you proposing? Sarah smiled. I'm proposing that the age of conquest is over, Commander. I'm proposing that the universe is big enough for cooperation instead of domination. I'm proposing that the Zorthian Dominion could become something far greater than a military force. You could become explorers, teachers, friends. The alien commander stood up and walked to the observation window, looking out at his massive fleet of warships. His officers watched him carefully, waiting for his decision. For 10,000 years, he said quietly, we have been warriors. But perhaps it is time to learn how to be something else. He turned back to Sarah with something that might have been hope in his 4 yellow eyes. Captain Chen, would humanity be willing to teach us? Sarah stood up and extended her hand once again. Commander Krelks, it would be our honor. As they shook hands, Sarah realized that this moment would be remembered as the day that changed not just first contact between species, but the entire nature of how civilizations interact across the galaxy. The age of conquest was indeed ending, and the age of cooperation was about to begin. Asterisk.